This is going to be a demo of the new USB controller support for the idun cartridge. The controller I'm going to be demonstrating, actually two controllers. I have this OG Xbox controller with a USB adapter connected to it, so I can plug it into the USB port of the Raspberry Pi of my idun cartridge. And I'm going to demonstrate that one first, and then also going to demonstrate this knockoff Sega Saturn USB controller. So the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and plug in the Xbox controller. So I'll attach that to my USB hub. And I'm going to press the reset button on the idun cartridge because it's not hot swappable. You do need to reset the cartridge whenever you plug in new controllers. And we'll just launch into DOS so I can show you the nifty little application for basically configuring the controller, mapping the buttons to whichever controller you're using. So there's this updated program called Joys, kind of short for joystick. And if you run that, it's going to show you this little pictorial, very boxy looking game controller. And you just need to follow the instructions to press the indicated buttons. So on my Xbox controller, you'll notice that A and B are actually opposite of the A and B in the pictorial. So you want to pay attention to that. You want to follow the pictorial, not necessarily the labels on whatever random controller you're using. So I'm going to press B for A, and then A for B. And you can see now it's telling me press button X, and then we press button Y. And then we need to do the left trigger, the right trigger, the select, which for that I'm going to use the back button, and then start, which we have a start button, and then right on the D-pad, so right, and then down. So at this point we've mapped all the buttons, and I'm going to do it again without talking this time just to show you that it's a pretty quick and simple thing to do. So we'll rerun Joys. Okay, so you only have to do that once for each controller that you intend to use, and that's stored in a configuration file, so then it's available from then on. So now we'd like to actually use the controller. And it just so happens that I've modified a PETSCII Robots 128 so that it can support USB game controllers. So what we want to do now is mount that game. So we'll use the file browser, and it's in idun base games. And we have this 128 robots. So select that, mount it on D, and exit the browser. And we'll reboot back to the basic prompt. And select D as our drive, return, and then just press F5 to start loading it. So this is the shareware version of PETSCII Robots, which I got permission from 8-Bit Guy to modify and distribute with USB controller support. So waking up the robots, of course it loads really fast because it's loading from the idun cartridge. And we'll come up here in a second. And then using our OG Xbox controller, we'll change the controls to USB gamepad and start the game. And so let's grab the pistol, and let's run in here and grab the key card, and let's find a harmless robot to execute. Maybe this guy. So as you can see, the game is fully operational using in this case, a OG Xbox controller. So that's fun. So let's reset the idun cartridge again. And so the other game that I modified as a proof of concept is the Galaga port for C64 mode. So this will be a C64 game this time using the controller. But let's actually unplug the Xbox controller and we'll plug in this Sega Saturn knockoff controller instead. And we'll configure that one so that it's ready to use to play Galaga. So we just go back into DOS. And we're ready to run Joys again. And this time I'll be setting up this other controller. So again, positionally, you want this button here to be A, you want this one to be B. So we just follow the instructions, A, B, X, Y, left trigger, right trigger. Don't really have a select button in the middle, but we'll use this third button over here on the right for select. Start, we do have that. And right and down. So now that game controller is configured for the first time. Like I said, you only have to do it once. And let's do Go 64. Since we're going to run a 64 game. And we need to navigate the directories. So let's CD into idun base. Add $. We'll CD into games right there. At $, and you see we both have both Galaga and Galaga-USB. So we want the USB one. That's the one that's modified to use the gamepads. And that will load right up. Decompress. Ready to play. Grab our handy dandy Sega Saturn knockoff. And now we're playing Galaga with the USB gamepad. Which I must say I like a lot better than a traditional joystick for this particular game. It doesn't really need a gamepad because it only uses the directions and the one fire button. But it is easier to mash the fire button quickly using a gamepad, at least for my fingers. So that's how it works. The source code changes for PETSCII robots are available on the idun-project repository. So you can take a look at, all the modifications are in really one file. It's probably 50 lines of code change to change it from using the original gamepad controller that it supports to using this USB support. I will also make the source code for the Galaga change available. Again, it's a few lines change. And these were both just done as proof of concept. Theoretically, well, any game you have the source code for, you could easily modify the source to use this USB gamepad support in addition to or instead of the traditional joystick ports. If you don't have the source code, well, you can still do it. You just have to start with the disassembly and searching the code for all the I/O port accesses where it's likely doing its joystick update routine. So definitely looking for suggestions for other games that might be interesting to patch that would really benefit for gamepad support. Clearly, PETSCII Robots needs a gamepad to even play it. There's other games out there, I'm sure, that would be nice to have 2 or 3 or more buttons to control your character. And that's pretty much the conclusion of the demonstration. And thank you for watching.